Let's go to the US straight away and break down all the action from this first presidential debate. We've heard so much of the reaction so far. Obviously, Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, and you've got to say it's been a train wreck for Joe Biden, the incumbent president. The pair faced off. They tackled all the big issues, the ones you would expect, the economy, mainly immigration, which was huge, and the question of abortion. And of course, it wouldn't be a debate without some personal jabs along the way. Now, once the debate kicked off, it didn't take long, and you really felt it sitting there for Joe Biden's first stumble. Have a listen.
Childcare, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden.
Seriously, it was sad to watch. And now in the US, as we've heard in the wash-up of this debate, there's arguments among the Democrats as to whether they can actually tap Joe Biden on the shoulder. I'd like to bring in Bill D'Agostino, Senior Research Analyst at the Media Research Centre. Bill, you can't talk about this debate without talking about the performance from Joe Biden. What did you make of it?
Yeah, no, you're hitting the nail right on the head there. I think that in general, that was kind of the question that everybody was wondering. Everybody sort of knew that Trump was going to be, well, himself. He has kind of a style. I think he's a bit of a known quantity. But Biden has been so all over the place in so many of his last public appearances. I think a lot of people were speculating he might come out seeming kind of wired and angry like he was during the State of the Union speech. But that really wasn't the case. And I think that clip that you just played pretty much perfectly highlighted the way he performed during this entire debate. He was uneven. He was losing his train of thought a lot. He had that kind of raspy, quiet voice. I'm being told that apparently he had a cold or something, although I feel like that only came out once he started getting hammered by Trump. But yeah, no, the entire performance, I think, was pretty difficult for Democrats to watch.
What I find hard to understand, Bill, I mean, the Democrats wanted this debate. And then once they got the debate up, it was run under their rules. Mics were muted. There was no audience there for Donald Trump to play off. But CNN then on-sold this to every major network in the United States. We ran it here live on Sky. This seems to be a massive mistake by the Democrats to even do this. How many actual Americans would have watched this tonight and thought, my God, that bloke's our president?
Unfortunately, I think quite a number of us, the vast majority of the media coverage that I've seen, including even from very pro-Biden cable networks like CNN and MSNBC, are kind of panicking as well. There's a couple of kind of dyed-in-the-wool Democrat operatives out there that are attempting to spin this, but even they don't really have much to go off of. I heard Joy Reid on MSNBC trying to blame the placement of the two candidates for Biden's performance. She complained that he was on the wrong side of the stage and that somehow that threw him off. No, I mean, I think that it's pretty clear to everybody that the image of Biden as this kind of decrepit, confused man is not just some right-wing conspiracy theory, as the media have been insisting. It's very much a difficult reality for all of us to have to deal with.
Bill, I'll get onto a couple of specific issues in a sec, but watching Sky here in Australia this afternoon, we played an interview Anderson Cooper from CNN did, who's certainly no Donald Trump fan. He was interviewing Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris. She kept going back to the issues, but Cooper kept saying, listen, hang on, you've got to comment on what the bloke who's the president, who you would take over from if he stepped down, what he was like tonight, and he was dreadful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was a very difficult interview to watch. The second she started speaking, her voice cracked like 3 or 4 times. I think that she was made incredibly uncomfortable by that. And she was probably also pretty upset to hear somebody from what should be a friendly cable network and a friendly audience putting this difficult question to her. I was honestly kind of impressed with the moderators, actually, that they even asked Biden an age question at all. Of course, they followed it up immediately with an age question for Trump, although there's been significantly less worry and speculation about Trump's fitness for the job, health-wise and age-wise. But in general, I think that they've kind of lost CNN a little bit on this one.
Let's have a little look at the exchange between the two in regard to abortion.
So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period.
Bill, interestingly, Trump moderated some of his views on abortion in one of those answers. Is abortion still a big issue in the States?
Absolutely it is. And I think that this was probably where, on substance, if not necessarily performance and style, Biden lost the support of, or not support, but at least the hopes of a lot of the Democrat people watching tonight, a lot of his handlers, because this is kind of supposed to be the Democrats' winning issue. I think that there's been a lot of very successful messaging, both from the DNC and from compliant media, that Republicans essentially want to ban abortion across the entire country, which of course scares a lot of suburban voters and middle-class voters. That's not a tenable position really to run on. That's not exactly true. I think that the majority of Republican politicians would probably prefer to leave it up to the individual states. But regardless, it's a messaging advantage that the Democrats absolutely should have. And there's no other way to say it. Biden kind of dropped the ball on this whole issue, right? He sort of let Trump run around him in circles. He kept citing Ralph Northam, which is, of course, a devastating case for a Democrat to have to contend with. That was my former governor, who Trump was alluding to, who did, in fact, actually suggest that if a baby is born when an abortion was trying to be performed, it would be possible to terminate the baby if the mother so chose, which is an insane position that barely anybody is behind. The fact that Trump was able to eat Biden's lunch on this issue, I think, is illustrative in general of the fact that Biden had very little command of the issues for this debate.
Illegal immigration's out of control. The former President Trump attacked Biden for allowing those illegals to flood into the country. The numbers are just staggering. Here's the exchange on border immigration.
We had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere. All over the world, they're pouring in.
The idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people. That's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating, he's lying.
Bill, anyone living in a major American city that's seen the end result of illegal immigration, they're going to be backing what Donald Trump says, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you have no prior knowledge going into this debate and you see what both of them said on that issue, then it just kind of turns into a he said, and it's a question of who you find more believable. But I think that the disadvantage that Biden has here is a lot of Americans are very aware of the reality that our border is incredibly porous. In some ways, we don't even have a border right now. And to be honest, I think that Trump could even have been a little bit harsher on Biden. I mean, he never even brought up the fact that the Department of Homeland Security has been deliberately flying illegal aliens into the country. Previously, there were scandals where illegal aliens were arriving in the country and DHS would fly them to wherever they wanted to go. We now have a program where they are actually being flown in on the government dime. And so there were, as much as Trump hammered him on that issue, I think that there was even more for him to touch on, to be completely honest. That's simply how bad our border security situation is here in the States right now.
It's great analysis, Bill. Just finally, does Joe Biden get to Election Day?
Yeah, that's kind of, I think, the question on everybody's mind right now. I am pretty firmly in the camp that if they were to replace Biden, it would be an incredibly big optics disaster for the party, because it would essentially be, especially after this debate, it would be them saying, okay, you know what, you guys were actually right. He is too old. He's not up to it. He's fine to stay in as president, though, but we're not going to run him in 24. And so I think the only way possible, and I don't think even this will happen, but the only way I could see them replacing Biden would be if they manufactured some sort of story about his health, something like that, had him step down as president as well, and then ran Kamala Harris. I don't see any other way that they don't try to drag him across the finish line, as unappealing as that probably is for a lot of them.
Bill Agostino, great work. Thanks very much for your help tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.